Welcome back. I hope you had an opportunity to try that out, and I hope you're not too upset at me about switching the format back into a string and then also updating the format of the JSON object, because really in web development, you never know how the data is coming in. So it's always good to be able to work with however it comes in and practice bringing it into usable formats. So next item up that we need to do is bring it into a usable format. We saw that last time, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with this. So now, whenever I dump it in there, we're back to our usable format. And again, please don't be upset. This was in order to practice bringing JSON formatted string values into a usable format. So that's all we were practicing there. So next, we need to hook up our output and our task list. So we need these ones again. So I'm going to quickly go through this because we saw this last time. So next, it comes to actually looping through this information. So now we've got a slightly different structure, but we can actually loop through it within using that same for loop. That's what's pretty good about JavaScript, because we do have that flexibility, and we saw that we can loop through the arrays within that same for format as well. You could do a for loop as well with x equals 0, loop through the items within the data JSON tasks, and it's not tasks anymore, by the way. So as we loop through them, then we can make use of that information. So now what we're doing is we're just looping through the key in JSON data, and let's get rid of some of this. We'll bring it down into here because we probably need it again. And this time, let's just console log out our key, and let's get rid of that. Or we can get rid of tasks. So speed things up. So now when we refresh, there we go. We've got the key, which is 0, and we've got the data JSON key, so we've got, which is an object, and that's why it's formatted in that way. And we see that we've got two values in there, two keys, so the info and status, and both of them have values. And really, literally, we could have a whole bunch of values here within this object, named pair values. So we could have, again, we could have how long it's going to take, the priority, if you want to do it, and so on and so on. So a lot of options now because we've got a more flexible data structure. So next, last time, we looked to see if the value of the key is checked. And we can do the same thing, but it's going to look slightly different. So this time, spice things up a little bit. Let's get rid of the explanation. So this time we're looking to see if it's true and key, and if it's true, then let's do checked. And if it's false, then we're going to do just a blank. So what do you think is wrong with this one here? Are we actually getting that information, the status information, or are we getting that whole object? And we are getting that whole object, so we do need to add, to get that Boolean value, we do need to grab the status. So we're doing data JSON key, so that's that whole object there that we're returning, and we want to focus on status, and that's where we just do dot status. So because it is an object, and that's how we can navigate and grab that object information. So great, so that was relatively the same. And really a lot of this stuff is going to be very similar. We just need to make sure that we can grab the data properly on the other end as well. So we know that we did the list item, so that's great. We need to, instead of the status, now that we've got more options, we can do key, and this one is going to be info, because we want to output that info, what it is, so cut grass or whatever it may be. And I forgot to add in the spaces, so let me quickly do that. One of the downsides of removing all of the spaces, my words lose all of their spaces as well. So now we've got that info key, we've got input type checkbox, so we want to do those checkboxes again, and we want to set a value. So let's think about what the value is going to be. So we saw over here return the key, So this is going to be essentially where it's located in the array. So if it's the first item, it'll locate there. Our value is going to be 0 and 1, 2, 3. So that actually works well. We can do this. And also the status we're grabbing over here. So that looks like that should work. And let's drop our checkbox, our HTML, and see if it works. So refresh, and there we go. Let's try changing these to some of them status true. So there we go. Everything is working as before. So next thing that we needed to do, and we did this last time as well, is that once we built this, we had to add those events in. Because by default, since we're building this dynamically, and we do want to build it dynamically because we're getting information in, we want to take that information and make use of it within our JavaScript. So that's where we want to keep with that same structure. So let's go ahead and let's add our event listener. So function and do add events. We can actually copy our code that we had down here. So let's see what happens. We'll copy that out. And let's update that. So add events, we still want to run that same one. Let's go through here. So checkboxes, we still want to grab all the checkboxes. We want to loop through all the checkboxes, and we want to loop through checkboxes on change, so that's fine. And we'll update the JSON. So actually, no change here. We're doing the exact same function. So next and last but not least, let's update that JSON information. So this one was whenever it gets clicked, we want something to happen. And keeping in mind, we changed our structure, so things are going to be slightly different. So let's grab that key. So we're grabbing the key, data JSON tasks. We don't have tasks anymore, so we can get rid of that. And key, we're still using the key. We're outputting the key in the value here. So it should match up with the data JSON. We're getting the key value there. So everything should actually match up. And event target checked. So this one is actually going to be different because this one now is sitting within status. So that's where there was slight variations of what we're doing. Not a whole lot because, again, this is something that is fairly similar in structure, but there are some differences to keep in mind. So let's see what happens. So refresh, check, true, and let's output that data JSON. So now, whenever we look at these values here, it should match with what we have on our HTML. So first one is false. That's right. True, true, true. So everything is right. Let's try it one more time. Let's output that again in the console. And now they should all be false. And they are. So perfect. Everything is connected once again. We've updated our data structure, but we've also had to update a few minor tweaks and adjustments in how we're getting that information and updating it. So what I want you to do now is take what you've learned in the earlier lessons, apply it, and make an update so that we're back to the same state as we were earlier, where we've got a dynamic list here. So whenever we check off, it's actually going to keep that same list sitting within that JavaScript object. In the next lesson, we're going to improve upon this and make this even more dynamic and flexible with what we can do within our checklist. So that's coming up.